What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD coming at you with a little follow up video. Now, recently I made a video on a retro advisory boards, Intellivision's 10 Tenets, the Family Promise. Now, in that video, I briefly touched on his charts being just ass and completely wrong. But a lot of people were asking me for more in-depth look at these charts, more in-depth look at the numbers and exactly what they mean and why his charts were so wrong. So as you can see, we got his YouTube video on the screen, but we want to get a closer look at the charts. Let's just zoom on in. There you go. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that green bar, that E for everyone, it's really, really high, especially compared to the E10 Plus. Now, the Game Boy Advance, the GameCube, the DS, they especially have really large green bars and not too high blue bars. Now, once again, we can't tell exactly what the percentages are. We have no hard numbers. It's a lot of obfuscation by this chart by Retro Advisory Board. Now, something that people might not realize, they might not know, is that in 2005, that's exactly when the E10 Plus rating was developed. You see, prior to 2005, all you had was E for everyone, teen, and mature. Now, this is very significant because the Game Boy Advance, the GameCube, and the DS all were released prior to 2005. So, games that were probably on the border were either going to be given a E for everyone or a teen rating. So that's exactly why GameCube has such a high yellow teen bar. You see, it wasn't because they had more mature games. It was because the games were right on the border, and we didn't have that E10 Plus to fill in the gap between E and teen. And so a lot of times the ESRB just erred on the side of caution and went ahead and labeled them teen. Now, you might not believe me. You might say, Tony, this not true. This can't be true. But you know what? Let's go ahead and let's take a look. According to Google, when was the E10 introduced in the U.S.? March 2005. Exactly what I said. And if we go over to ESRB ratings over here on Moby Games, let's see, R Racing Evolution, you can see it's rated teen. But in Europe, it's rated PEGI 12. And the only indicator of content is bad language. What that tells us is, most likely, if this game was released after 2005, it probably would have got that E10 Plus rating and not a teen rating. Because, as I alluded to, there's a lot of games that were on the border between E and teen, and the ESRB, erring on the side of caution and not wanting to upset parents, gave those games ratings of teen instead of E. Now, let's go back to these charts. So as I alluded to, as I said, you got a lot of games that are going to be rated higher on the Game Boy Advance, GameCube, and DS simply because that E10 Plus rating didn't exist. Now, the second thing you need to realize is that the Game Boy Advance, the DS, and the 3DS are handheld systems. Traditionally, handheld systems are aimed at a more younger audience because they're not going to be sitting around playing the games. They're going to be taking them on the bus, taking them to school, playing with their friends. These are the systems that have Pokemon and stuff like that, and they've always been aimed at a younger audience. So just by their very nature, they're going to have a lot more E-rated games. Now, these charts that were created by RAB, by Retro Advisory Board, a lot of people have been asking. They said, where did you get these numbers? I've asked, where did you get these numbers? Of course, because I'm shadow banned on his channel, there's no way for me to ask him. But fortunately, we have other people who have asked him. People like Richo Cross. He says, "Hi, can you please list your sources for the ESRB game distribution by rating by platform graphs, I'm Googling the Nintendo numbers and seeing some pretty large discrepancies with your E and E10 percentages and wanted to verify the sources you used. Of course, Retro Advisory Board went ahead and deleted this comment. I'm not sure if he replied to it. I did contact Mr. Cross, asked him if he was replied to by Retro Advisory Board. He has not got back to me by the making of this video. If he does, I will put in the comment section what he tells me. If not, don't even worry about it, because you see, he's not the only one that asked. We have Mr. Beefy here. He asked, where did you get the data for your charts? I think it would be cool to see all the trends across all platforms over the years. Retro Advisory Board actually answered this. He says, thanks Mr. Beefy, had to compile this myself. It just didn't exist, at least as non-proprietary data. Hard stop, this is complete falsehood, complete lie. This just shows that Retro Advisory Board didn't actually do his research. He doesn't have the knowledge, the skill to actually go ahead and do these things. You see, if we go over to Moby Games, they have a complete list by platform, by rating of each game, each system, and each ESRB rating for that system. As you can see, I got on the screen the Game Boy Advanced ESRB rating for mature. There's only 9 games, and they're all listed by the year, by their publisher. You could click on the links and you can get more in-depth information about each game. You see, this data does exist. It's out there if you know how to find it. If you are actually involved in the gaming community, in the gaming industry, you would know exactly where to look. But unfortunately for Mr. Retro Advisory Board, he's not involved in these things. So exactly where did he get his information? If we go back to his comment, he says, 4 points of reference on this. 1. ESRB has a rating search by platform for recent platforms. This was instrumental for the last 2 gens, but slightly off on a couple of consoles, so likely missing a handful of the more obscure games. First off, if you go to the ESRB ratings, they don't actually have a list of the amount of games. You have to make a hand count of each game by rating, by platform, which means that Retro Advisory Board could have made a mistake. He could have counted games twice. He could have accidentally counted a compilation that had a game that was previously released by itself. We don't know, because Retro Advisory Board, he's not telling us the numbers. He's not giving us the hard data. He's just kind of hinting at what he did. And if you don't believe me, let's go ahead and take a look. ESRB.org/search. Now, what do we got here? We got Wii U mature. Let's go ahead and search that. Now, as you can see, search results. We got no numbers. We just got a list of games. Now, if we go through this list of games, we're going to find something very strange. We're going to find that a game has been included twice. You got How to Survive, and then you got How to Survive. It's very interesting. So unless Retro Advisory Board was paying very, very close attention to what he was doing, he could have made a mistake that was going to make all his numbers off. Even just, and the Wii U only has about 29 to 30 games that are rated mature. This, making a mistake on this, wouldn't have been a big deal. But when we're talking 800 games, when we're talking 500 games, making a couple of mistakes is bound to happen, especially when you have no hard numbers in front of you and you're doing a hand count. Let's see, back over to his comment. Second point is, company websites like Nintendo allow you to filter by rating but inflate the game count with various additions. Now, Nintendo and Microsoft, they do have these filters. PlayStation does not. You're not getting any filters on the PlayStation Store. So I'm not sure where he got the PlayStation numbers. Definitely wasn't from the PlayStation Store. And if we go over to the Xbox Store, we can see that there are filters. We got, currently we're looking at, let's go with mature. See all the games. Now, again, you have to do a hand count because on the Xbox Store, they're not giving you the amount of games. You have to count them. And again, you might end up having different editions counted. You might end up having games that have compilations counted. There's so many rooms for errors. Now we do have right here, we do have some numbers. There's 686 results, but that's not how many games. It's not how many actual physical different games there are. And if you go over to something like E for Everyone, we got to get rid of the mature. Just looking at the E games, 537 results. Now, how many of these are going to be bundles? How many of these are going to be multiple games put into a compilation disc? If we sort by A through Z, we can see we got older games that are re-released, games that were from the Xbox 360 being listed here. So it's going to be really hard to get these numbers. We don't know which games were released for the Xbox. We don't know which games were just released for the Xbox 360. We don't know which ones were ported over. We don't know if RAB is counting the games that were ported over. There's so many things that could go wrong. Now, let's go back to his comment. Let's just see what else he has to say. What else did he use? He says, number 3, Gamesutra published a breakdown of ratings by platform in 2005 for the earlier systems, using incomplete ESRB search data, no longer indexed systems on their database. Once again, it's a little bit of misinformation here because Gamesutra actually released this in 2007. And they don't have hard numbers, they give you percentages. And as we can see, here's the charts that they use. They use pie charts, so it's a little bit clearer. But as you can see by the information, it says first off, the distinguishing feature between the two is the rating category of E10 Plus, which wasn't created until 2005. So again, just like I said, E10 Plus wasn't created prior to 2005. And now he's saying, we got numbers, 1%, 10%. But here's the thing: when you have big data, when you have numbers in the thousands, you're going to end up with percentages that are not whole percents. We don't know if these people rounded up. Did they round down? We don't know because we don't have the hard numbers, because Gamesutra doesn't provide us with these hard numbers. And hard numbers are what you need in order to fact check somebody. But of course, when you don't want to be fact checked, that's when you don't use hard numbers. That's when you use, handmade, homemade charts, much like RAB did. Now his last thing here, it says he pulled 20% sample from each platform library and ran checks against cover art rating labels. Reprint sites were helpful here to see if my samples deviated much from the ESRB's data, company's website published entries, or the earlier Gamesutra study. The last was pretty redundant. The deviations were negligible. According to who? We don't know. We don't know what that really means, other than he didn't agree with it. We don't know if maybe his 20% sample was higher or lower. How much lower, how much higher. He doesn't give us this number. He doesn't give us this data. He said, but I was concerned about putting out unpublished numbers. Again, a lie, because as I shown, the numbers are published. The numbers are available. You can go ahead and find them at Moby Games. If you knew how to do research, if you knew what to look for, you could find them. The numbers are out there. The data is available. You can and you should mark your charts accurately. You can and should show every bit of information you can when you're making a chart. Because when you don't, people are going to question what you're doing. People are going to want to know where you got this information. And of course, if you don't want to be honest, if you want to spin a narrative, you're going to put out a chart with as little information as you can in order to get people to agree with what you're trying to sell them. When you're trying to make it look like the Nintendo has somehow abandoned this E for everyone rating and they're getting more and more mature games, it's going to be really easy for you to not actually include the amount of games released for every system. It's going to be real easy for you not to include the amount of E games released. It's going to be real easy for you not to actually tell people that the E10 Plus rating wasn't invented until 2005. And it's going to be very, very easy to pretend like this information isn't publicly available and very easy to find with a simple Google search if you knew what you were doing, if you were involved in the industry, if you were actually involved in the gaming community, and if you actually had half a brain. But of course, Retro Advisory Board, he likes to use those big words. He likes to slow talk. He likes to pretend like he's some kind of authority when the truth of the matter is he is nothing but a mouthpiece for Tommy Tallarico and the Intellivision Amico. He is nothing but a propaganda mill trying to convince people that this is a system that is fulfilling a niche, fulfilling a need, solution to a problem. But the reality is there is no problem. E for Everyone games still exist. They're readily available. Couch co-op exists. It's readily available. And everything that the Intellivision Amico purports to do, it's already been done. It's already been done a lot better on a lot more systems. But that's all I got to say about that. If you need to know anything else, hit me up in the comments. Send me a message, submissions@thegeekgetaway.com. I'm taking suggestions for videos. I'm taking, questions if you want to ask me something personal. And if you just want to say hi, let me know that I'm doing a good job, you can hit me up there. And you know what we say at this channel? Love, peace, booty grease, and we out this bitch.